All right. I'd like to welcome to the show my next guest, Mr. Eric Dickmann. How you doing, sir?
I am doing great, John. Thanks for having me on the show today.
It is absolutely my pleasure to have you on the show. So I do have a bunch of topics to bring up, but one thing I want to say is you are the founder slash CMO of the Five Echelon Group. Am I correct?
That's exactly right. It's a company that I started a little over a year ago.
Okay. And for those that don't know, maybe me included, what is a CMO?
So a CMO, great question. It's a chief marketing officer. So for practical sake, it's businesses that need marketing support. They generally have a leader that runs their marketing efforts, and that marketing person is usually the CMO, although it's generally a title that gets reserved for larger companies. Smaller companies may just have a VP of marketing or a marketing manager, but that's the net of it.
And
Yeah.
I see you're a big bourbon aficionado, so I
Oh
love
man, I
whiskey,
love
so
it.
we'll get into that.
Oh, that's great. I love talking bourbon.
Good stuff. So yeah, it'll be
It'll
like I
make me
said,
thirsty though.
I know for sure. I usually sip on something while I'm doing this, but I have something to do afterwards, so I can't partake.
Yeah, I understand. I've done that more than once myself.
Yeah, so the way I do this, right, is I'll make a trailer of the podcast through the video trailer, and then I'll release the full audio on all the major platforms. So it'll be about a 10 to 15-minute video trailer to lead people to the actual podcast.
Oh, that's excellent. That's exactly what I want to start doing. Just not quite there yet.
Yeah. So eventually, maybe one day I'll do the full video, but I do notice that because I'll watch back both playback on video and then I'll listen to playback on audio, and I feel just you get more into it listening rather than watching. So maybe
I
one
agree.
day. So
I agree.
we'll see where that goes.
The net of it.
Okay. And I do see here that a lot of what you do is remote work, and you try and do like what you call a work-life balance. So majority of the time you're working remotely, either from your house or wherever you're at. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's right. With my consulting firm, what I have a program called CMO on Demand, or a virtual CMO, and really what that is it's a fractional executive service where some company will hire me to help with their marketing strategy, but it's not a full-time gig. I'm not a full-time employee of the company. I work remotely. I help them with their strategy. I help them get it executed, but I might be doing that for several companies all at once, but that's all remote. And that's what allows you to have the scale and the ability to be able to do that at a lower cost than hiring in a full-time employee, because you can do it remotely. And I've been working remotely for 20 plus years and I love it. I love it.
I could imagine. So basically, the gist of that is you could have more clients and deal with more people because you work remotely. So you don't have to physically be there to help them out and give them your services. You could work remotely and deal with more clients from on day to day.
Yeah, if you're familiar with, the big consulting firms, the Accenture, the Deloittes, or these guys, typically they're hired by these larger companies. They get people on planes, they fly out, they spend a week at a hotel, helping companies with strategy and whatnot, and then they fly back. That's hugely expensive. There's all that travel involved. There's somebody who's got to be there on site. You may only get them for a couple of days in the week anyway. So what this allows is all that cost goes away, and then you can just focus on whatever the deliverables need to be, and focusing on that particular client for a certain period of your week. And then you can spend time working on other clients. So it works out really well. And you mentioned this whole term of work-life balance. And I think we're all seeing a little bit more of that during COVID. We're recording this in July, and so many people have now had the opportunity to work from home. And you think about people like out in California, out in the Bay Area, who have 2-hour commutes every day, or 2 hours one way even.
Right.
Can you imagine all the stress that has relieved just by being able to work from home and enjoy that time with your family and whatnot? There's a lot that it really enables in terms of a more positive work-life balance, I think.
Yeah, companies, big companies included, are starting to see because of, we were on lockdown for a while, that employees are able to work from home and actually sometimes be more productive from their home because they're in their own comfortable setting. They don't have somebody hounding them, over their shoulders, and they're actually able to get more work done from their home. So I think we're going to start to see a trend of these bigger companies. I'm hearing Twitter and Google they're going to actually start keeping a lot of the employees at home if they would prefer to be there to work from there. So this is a
Absolutely.
strange good thing that came out of COVID, which is kind of weird to say.
It is, you're right. And I think so much of it has been a fear on companies or managers' part that when they don't see their employees, that what are they doing? Are they not
Right.
working? Uh, but it's really more on the managers than it is on the employees, because if you're managing people to be productive, to get certain things done, to have certain deliverables, then it really shouldn't matter whether they're doing that at 7 o'clock in the morning or 7 o'clock at night, as long as they're getting those things done to be true.
Yeah, and you might, as the employee, feel like, hey, I am working from home. I better get some more stuff done so they see how productive I actually am at the house. So you might actually even work a little bit harder. I don't know.
You do. I think your workday stretches out sometimes into the evening because, again, maybe that's a quiet time. Maybe you have kids and there are distractions and whatever. Well, that's okay, as long as you're able to figure out a time and a place in your home to actually get your work done. And I think that's the initial adjustment period, is people need to find what hours they can work, what place in their home they can work and be productive. And then once that gets figured out, it's actually pretty amazing what usually happens. It's not for everybody. There are some personality types that they just can't handle it. They need that in-person supervision.
Because if I'm able to slack off, I just might be on the couch with some bonbons watching Netflix rather than doing my job. So maybe me.
You might be that 10%, huh?
Exactly. So this is leading me into you host a weekly podcast called The Virtual CMO, right?
Yes, that's exactly right. It's something that I really enjoy doing. And obviously you're a podcaster and you know how much fun it is. And really the idea behind the podcast is to take some of those same strategy tips from other businesses, other marketing professionals, people who have gone through similar experiences, and really share that value through the podcast. The idea being that if you're a marketing professional in a small or a mid-sized business, why make mistakes that other people have made before you if you can pick up some pieces of value, learn some things from some fellow professionals to say, hey, if I just do this a particular way, I can avoid those pitfalls, I can avoid spending that money or wasting that money and be more successful, improve the trajectory of your marketing activities. And so that's really the goal of the podcast, is to bring people on who can provide that value and really help marketing professionals. So it's me sort of being a virtual CMO and having conversations with the audience and really trying to help them improve the strategies of their marketing efforts.
Cool. Let me ask you this. Is the format where you just get on there and it's you on the mic? Is it you talking to a co-host? Is it you talking to people? How does the format go on your show?
Yeah, I started out with me talking and sharing some tips and tricks that I have. And that was never the idea for it to be a long-term format of just a solo show. I really wanted to interview guests. And so that's the way the show is now, is each week I bring on a new guest, somebody who's an expert in some particular area of marketing, and I interview them. And we just have a very relaxed conversation, much like we're doing here, and just talk about their experiences and what they advise people to do in different aspects of marketing. So I love it. Whether it's, the microphone that I'm talking to you on right now, or the camera
Pod
that
mic, I
I'm
see
using,
it.
or the pod mic. Yeah, exactly. These are all things that I learned about from people sharing their expertise on YouTube or through a podcast. And so there's so much great value out there. There's no reason for people to have to just wing it. I can't even imagine going to a site, a B&H, an Adorama, one of these places, and just randomly picking out things without having any guidance. There's just too many choices out there. And that's definitely true in the marketing world. There are too many choices about different things that you can do and spend money on.
So that's kind of what I like about doing this podcast, is I get to bring people on that I find interesting and then learn about what they do and all their knowledge that they have. And I get to get some of their wisdom input into me. So when I saw you on one of these mutual podcasting sites and I saw kind of what you were doing and stuff, I was like, this is an interesting gentleman. I'm glad we got into contact with each other, because I feel you've been around for a little bit. You do have some knowledge on some subjects that the audience would absolutely love to hear about. Let me ask you this. So you went from Wisconsin to Florida, and without sounding too ignorant, Where is Wisconsin on the map of the United States?
So, it's funny. It's called the Midwest, but it's not really in the middle of anything. It's sort of still over on the east side of things. It's east of the Mississippi, but it's kind of in that Great Lakes region, right? It's up on the northern part of the country, right? Above Illinois and next to Michigan and Minnesota. And Wisconsin is an interesting place. It's got a reputation for cheese, right? The
Oh yeah,
cheeseheads from Wisconsin, the Green Bay Packers and Milwaukee Brewers, if you're a sports fan,
Brett
and all
Favre
that.
fan.
Yeah, but it's an interesting state because the population is mostly downstate. It's mostly in the south, in the Milwaukee, Madison areas. So my progression has been working my way slowly south until finally I ended up here in Orlando, Florida.
So now we're in Orlando. So I'm guessing that's near Disney, right?
It is. I live near downtown, which is still a fair ways from Disney, but Disney is very much a part of this town.
And Disney is reopening kind of as we speak. Have they opened or is that process beginning?
No, they've been slowly opening. They opened up their Disney Springs area, which is their retail, and then they opened up two of the parks, and then I think now all four of the parks are open, but at a really limited capacity and
Okay.
with a lot of these personal social distancing and enforced mask wearing and things like that. It was funny. There was a story that was in the news just today because they require people to wear masks unless they're eating.
Okay.
And so what people would be doing is walking around the park with a pretzel
Pretending
saying,
to
"Oh,
eat.
yeah, I'm eating because I've got
Yeah.
a bottle of water, I've got a pretzel." And so both Disney and Universal put a stop to that this week.
Smart. Kind of in the beginning when this whole coronavirus had broken out, uh, Florida was kind of an unsung hero because down there is an older population, and you guys were able to quickly, I guess, stop patients, older patients going from the hospital and then back into the senior homes. So your numbers were very, very low as far as mortality rate and as even far as infection goes. And then after the lockdown, you guys seem to be one of the earlier states to open up. And now we're starting to see some spikes of cases coming out there and spikes of mortality. Are they planning on pulling back a little bit? Are they still going full steam ahead with reopening plans? Do you have any knowledge on that?
When the book is written on this whole thing, it's going to be interesting to understand what really happened because I think that there was a bit of a surprise when COVID first kicked off that Florida wasn't more impacted than it was. And
Right.
maybe it just wasn't discovered. But whatever happened, it's here now and it's come back in a big way. And I think you've got some real differences in the population here in terms of adherence to social distancing and mask wearing. I was just talking with a gentleman before we got on the air, and he lives in a part of the state where he said he goes out, nobody's ever wearing a mask. And here in Orlando, it's just the opposite. Everybody's wearing a mask. So it really depends on where you go. I think the governor is pushing aggressively to keep things open. He's been very reluctant to lock things down more than he has.
Right.
And I think, our cases continue to spike. So it's not looking good. We'll see how this plays out, but it's not looking good.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword, right? Everybody wants the economy to open back up, but we also don't want people to get massively infected and death rates to go up. So it really is a double-edged sword that kind of needs to be handled by not only a state-by-state basis, but even maybe a county-by-county in that state basis, because every place is really different when it comes down to it. But to move away from more of this morbid stuff, I hear that you are a technology geek, and I think back in the day, to be a geek or into technology was a thing. It was geeky. But now, since the Big Bang Theory, that popular TV show,
Yes,
geekdom has become coolness. So, and I see that you love all things Apple, and I'm a
I
huge
do.
Apple fan. Is there a better tech company out there? I don't know. My question
There
to you
isn't.
is there?
No, there really isn't. I mean, I've loved Apple from the beginning. In fact, you can't see it in the video shot here, but in my other room, I have one of the original iMacs that's on one of my shelf, and it gets comments anytime I have visitors come over.
Is that the
Uh,
one that looks almost like a fishbowl where it's got like the blue back, bubble back?
no, that was actually, I mean, that was the resurgence of the iMac, the colored iMac. This was the original beige